In this section, we'll discuss a brief overview of the special education steps. Part 1 has 4 steps that move your child from the referral to an eligibility decision stage. If an IEP team then finds your child eligible for special education, steps 5 through 8 in Part 2 cover the IEP development and implementation. Part 1, in order to determine eligibility, starts with 1, referral, 2, assessment plan, 3, assessment period, and 4, the IEP team meeting. Part 2, if your child's found eligible, continues with step 5, developing the IEP, 6, implementing the IEP, 7, the IEP review meeting, and 8, the IEP reevaluation. The timeline for Part 1 starts with a written referral received from the parent or another person making the referral. Then within 15 days of receiving the referral, the assessment plan is created and given to the parent to review, sign, and consent to. Then as soon as possible, the parent will sign the consent and return it to the school. Within 60 days of receiving the assessment plan, then the assessments are completed and the IEP team meeting is held. Remember that the time limits don't apply during breaks of more than 5 consecutive school days. Step 1 is the written referral. Starts with a request or a referral written by a parent, school staff, or a student success team or SST, and stops when the parent submits the written request for assessment or is informed in writing of the school district's intent to refer a child for special education assessment. The request for assessment can include the following: evidence of the child's learning needs and modifications or strategies attempted in the general education program, strategies or interventions that worked or didn't work, which disability is suspected, and why the child's needs can't be met in a general education program, even when making adjustments. Step 2 is the assessment plan. It's sent within 15 days of the district receiving the written referral. The process starts when the school receives the written request for assessment. An assessment plan and procedural safeguards are sent to the parent. And the timeline stops when the signed assessment plan is received by the school district. Assessment plan is a form that includes the following: the reasons for assessment and areas to be assessed, the staff that will be conducting the assessment, types of tests or procedures to be used, and if the district disagrees and decides not to assess, then they will provide the parent with the written reasons. Step 3 is completed within 60 days of the district receiving the signed assessment plan. Assessment can begin when the school district received the parent's signed consent on the assessment plan, and it's done when the staff that performed the assessments completes the written reports. The activities included in the assessment period may include observation in class and other settings, formal and informal testing, gathering information about things such as health and developmental history, social and adaptive behaviors, communication skills, achievement, scores, and other important data. The parent input on child through interviews or surveys are also included. Step 4 is the IEP team meeting to determine eligibility. It's completed within 60 calendar days of receiving the signed assessment plan. Starts with the case manager scheduling the IEP team meeting at a mutually agreed upon date and time. And the case manager then sends the written invitation to all the required IEP team members. Parents can also invite others that they wish to attend. That's completed when the IEP team decides whether your child's eligible for special education or not. If found eligible, then the team will develop an IEP. More information on that on step 5. If your child's not eligible, the IEP team then will discuss other ways to address your child's learning needs and to support them. The eligibility meeting may include or does include a summary of each assessment report, procedures and results, the IEP team discussion on whether your child meets criteria for one or more of the educational disabilities. And if the assessment data shows your child has an educational disability, IEP team then discusses whether your child's learning needs can be met in a general education program without special education or not. If your child's found eligible for special education, then more information on that in step 5, it's developing an IEP for details. The IEP is usually developed at the eligibility meeting. However, sometimes the IEP is developed at a separate meeting. If your child's not found eligible for special education services, then the IEP team discusses strategies to address your child's learning needs at school. Step 5 is the developing the IEP. It starts when the child is found eligible for special education, and it's done with parents sign the consent to begin implementation of all or parts of the IEP that they agree to. Based on assessment information, the team develops an IEP, including the following: present levels of educational performance, learning needs that result from disability, annual goals and objectives as appropriate for the child, services and supports, individual transition plan or ITP for students that are 16 years or older to prepare them for life after high school. It includes annual review and a 3-year reassessment date, participant signatures, and the signed parent consent to implement all or part of the IEP. Step 6 is implementing the IEP. The school districts, once they receive the signed parent consent to all or some of the IEP, starts implementing the IEP. And it's completed when the IEP team adjusts the IEP at an annual plan review meeting or at a requested IEP meeting. It includes providing specially designed teaching and supports defined in the IEP, communication between special educators, general education teachers, and parents. It also includes written progress reports and IEP goals at least as often as report cards are provided. Step 7 is the IEP plan review meeting. Happens at least once a year, and it starts with the case manager scheduling the IEP meeting at a mutually agreed upon date and time, and the case manager sends the written invitation to all the required IEP team members. Parents, once again, can invite anyone they wish to attend the meeting with them. It's completed when the school receives the parent's signed consent to all or some of the IEP updated, or if the student leaves the school. Step 7, the IEP plan review meeting usually includes reports from services provided and general education teachers on current performance. It includes review of your child's progress on IEP goals, updated learning needs based on reports if needed, updated goals, review of services and updates if needed to give your child reasonable opportunity to meet their goals, individual transition plan or ITP for students that are 16 years or older. And to understand your child's progress or how to support your child at home throughout the year, you could refer to progress reports provided according to the schedule agreed upon by the IEP team. Step 8 is the IEP eligibility evaluation meeting that happens every 3 years. It begins when the reevaluation meetings are occurring at least every 3 years and begins with the assessment plan. Parents may invite others, as usual, if they wish to attend the reevaluation meeting. And it's completed when the eligibility is confirmed or updated and signed by parents, or when the student leaves the school. Step 8, the IEP 3-year eligibility evaluation meeting, or the triennial, usually includes formal and informal assessment, review of specialist reports, review of your child's progress, review of your child's eligibility, and the annual plan review is typically held at the eligibility evaluation meeting so that needs, goals, and services can be updated based on current assessment information.